Today I'd like to discuss a topic that is rarely brought up, and that's the practical difference between a mechanical and a quartz perpetual / annual calendar. Now, before getting any further, I'd like to give a definition. An annual calendar is a mechanism that can take into consideration short months and long months. Basically, it knows when to go from the 31st to the 1st, or it goes from the 30th to the 1st. A perpetual calendar is typically an annual calendar that can also take into consideration leap years. Understandably, this has traditionally been a highly valued, difficult to manufacture mechanism, and it's always been very, very expensive. In modern times, there's at least one company that specializes in making these modules, and in the Baume and Mercier Classima on the left, it has a mechanism made by Dupraz, and typically it's my understanding that if you see a contemporary watch with an annual mechanism, it's going to be made by them. In this case, in the semicircle, you have the month, and that's the big date. So that's how you read it. On the right, we have a quartz perpetual calendar. Now, this is a JDM Citizen Promaster, probably from the mid-2000s. It's a PMT56-2711, I believe. And it takes about 2 minutes to set the mechanism, because you have to specify the month, the year, and I think the leap year, or something along those lines. Maybe about 2 minutes, and you're set, and unless that battery dies, you're good to go. Even more importantly, the model that came after this in Japan actually had radio synchronization as well, so you could sync it, at least in Japan, and you didn't even have to set anything. So just so we have that clear, the quartz perpetual is really easy to set. It's a one-time deal, and you never have to worry about it again for the most part. Now, the mechanical annual calendar, on the other hand, isn't. As you can tell, the last time I wore this was March 4th. If I want to get everything up to date, I'm going to have to sit there and spin the date wheel over and over and over again until I get to today. Now, in this case, it's not too bad because it's just a few weeks, but I rarely wear this watch. And what if it was 6 months since I last wore it, 8 months, or even a year? It really would become a tedious procedure, especially if you just decide in the morning to wear it in the day. It's just not something you can do. It's a watch that requires you to think ahead and plan. And if this was a perpetual, it would even be more of a nightmare. In fact, some speculate that one of the few legitimate uses for a watch winder or mechanical watch winder is a perpetual calendar watch, because they're so enormously inconvenient to set if they stop. And again, as a public service statement, aside from that, you really shouldn't really consider getting a mechanical watch winder because it'll prematurely wear your watch. But it's just, I use it as an example to emphasize just how inconvenient it is. And you may say, well, that's the nature of mechanical watches. And I'll say, not quite, because I, for the most part, prefer mechanical watches. And the thing is, if you have a mechanical alarm or a mechanical chronograph, all you have to do is wind the crown a few times, and you can set it, and you can go, and that's it. And the functions will work throughout the day. But you don't have that luxury with the annual or perpetual calendar. It really takes a long time to set it if it stops. And in the case of like the mechanical alarm or chronograph, winding it a few times gets it going, and you can use the functions. But with annual, I mean, you can just set the date conceivably in the morning and leave, but then you won't be able to benefit from the main function that the watch has that is really interesting, and that's the advanced calendar setting. So obviously everyone's opinion is different, but based on my experience, I'd say that if you're interested in a perpetual calendar and you're not committed to wearing it on a regular basis or an annual calendar, aside from the price hurdles, it really would be worthwhile to consider getting a quartz in this particular case, because I just don't see the mechanical offering any worthwhile advantage as compared to the quartz versus, again, with other mechanical complications that are much more practical on a daily basis. Anyway, that's about it for this video, and as usual, thanks for watching.